Bond, James Bond, is a classic hero of escapist fantasy genre, filming in the genre of espionage and coming out of the Cold War era, and was a great series. But he may be coming to an end soon. Because woke culture is a far more formidable force than Spectre could ever hope to be. But it all began with, of course, Ian Fleming's novels, and actually, the first depiction was this live television show based on Casino Royale with who played it? Barry Nelson, I think. No relation if it was Barry, either way. But I've only seen clips of it, and it's not good. For whatever reason, Casino Royale never got justice until finally when Daniel Craig's Bond came in, and it was a fantastic film, just really great, easily one of the all-time best Bond films. So it got that cheesy black and white version, and then there was the comedy with Peter Sellers and David Niven and all that. So I don't know why, because it is the first story, but the film series that became very beloved began with Dr. No, and introducing Sean Connery as really the first James Bond, and still to this day the iteration by which all other Bonds are judged, and in a lot of ways rightfully so. Even though this is one of these interesting things, Ian Fleming did not like the casting, then saw him in action and thought, well, so Connery was that good, he made the character his own, and so there you are. These things happen. The only other times I can think of that happening in a lot of ways, I mean, I'm sure it's happened in other accounts, I'm just blanking on it, but was when the Interview with the Vampire film came out, and Anne Rice was so upset they cast Tom Cruise. Then she saw it, it's like, oh, I was wrong. These things happen. But certainly with Sean Connery's portrayal, when I was a kid, Roger Moore was James Bond. Those are the movies I saw first. And people were talking, yeah, but Sean Connery was better. I'm like, what do you mean? And then finally I saw it, and I said, oh, I still have a soft spot for Roger Moore's performance. And he gets a lot of crap, and people see him as a more of a parody of Bond than the actual Bond. And I think that's being a bit unkind. It's certainly very different, and we'll get there. But this will be my first in a series of reviews of Bond films. As if I don't have enough already with Star Trek, Doctor Who, Blake 7, and shows that are ongoing now, like The Expanse and whatnot, plus films. But it's something I've been thinking about and wanted to do anyway. So Dr. No, and it's been a while since I'd seen it. I had always thought of it as kind of it's the start of it, and that it's not quite there yet. And I thought Goldfinger was the big one that really established Bond. In a lot of ways, that's still somewhat true. Although rewatching it, I'm like, well, you know what? Most of the elements are there. Certainly, Bond is there. Sean Connery is like as if he'd been playing it for quite some time. The girls, of course. And the villain, and then the whole Bond villains end up having these massive, damn near cities underground and stuff like that. But everything's there, with the exception of a lot of the gadgets is not there. There's some elements, mostly from the villains, of how they, he captures one and he commits suicide beside him, but that's not really all that. Because Bond gadgets almost get into the world of superheroes and science fiction sometimes, because they're so cool and stuff. But then again, with the villains, with Dr. No himself, he had these metal hands because he lost them in his experiments with nuclear weapons or nuclear power and all that sort of thing. But Spectre is established here. He admits he's a member of it, and this is how Bond discovers it, at least in this version, and that they're playing the Cold War to their advantage. They're playing the two superpowers against one another, and to profit from it, basically. And so everything is there, the different means by which to kill Bond, and of course the ultimate mistake villains make, to just shoot him. But, so this is the one where they drop a spider in his bedroom to kill him. Then that doesn't work, so the guy finally comes up to kill him. But of course, Bond's onto you at this point, so he gets him in the back. Well, not in the back. The guy turns around, but nevertheless. So all of the elements are there, and it does play well. The opening is almost there, but it's not quite what you get used to for Bond films. You know, it's usually just a bunch of naked girls prancing around, sort of almost. And of course, the '60s being eventually psychedelic type imagery comes about, and in a lot of ways still dominates the visual narratives of openings to Bond films. The Bond theme song, which is presented here, is the Dr. No theme song, but it becomes the theme of James Bond, and you hear it quite a bit. I'm not sure. I keep forgetting. I should have checked the credits or whatnot, because John Barry became basically the real sound of Bond themes and music, and it worked great. You know, I mean, he was really good at that, and coming up with that. He's really missed if he's not there. But it was what was it? Was it Monty Newman or Monty Norman? I can't remember. Yeah, Monty Norman. He did the theme song, but really John Barry becomes the real sound of Bond, in my opinion, for quite a few of them. So pretty much all elements are there. Of course, like the gadgets and whatnot is not. Q does not appear, but we'll get him in the next one. And so everything is there. The silly names, Honey Rider, all of that stuff. Now, today, looking at it through today's lens, there could be some amount of complaint here. Bond's Bond, and I think I was watching one of was it Midnight's Edge? I think. Well, Robert, he was on, anyway. The basic premises of Bond is that he's on he's riding with the Grim Reaper all the time, and so he's living life to the fullest, and that's what he does. The women in here, they're into it, and they give as good as they get in a lot of ways. The lines back and forth, there is that sort of tease and chase of men and women, which is throughout literature and whatnot, as part of the flirtation and all this of these fantasy figures that we're escaping real life through, and they're beautiful, and they flirt with one another, and they get it on and all that, and that's all a part of the fantasy of genre like Bond. So, however, here with the Ursula Andress character, at one point, Bond and her are captured by Dr. No, and they put they're questioned by him, and then Dr. No says, well, I'm sure my guards can entertain her, and realizing they're going to have their way with her, and Bond tries to intercede. Of course, he's overpowered and can't do it. And later on, when he, of course, escapes, and he's able to find her and rescue her, we find her. She's, what was she, tied to a rock, about to be drowned by the water coming in, and he saves her and all that. But there is that line that the guards had fun with her, if you will, which is pretty terrible, and but not without a credibility when you're dealing with evil people like this. Bond saves her, of course, and then, well, they decide to, after all of that, they escape the explosion of Dr. No's place, and of course, Bond always ends up getting the girl, literally. So after going through all that, she giggles and makes out with Bond, and they decide to, well, let's have sex in a boat in front of the CIA. It's how the film's supposed to end, but I mean, it's certainly insinuated that the poor woman had just been raped by the Spectre guards. Maybe they didn't, maybe they just tossed her around and then left her in that, dungeon or whatever. I don't know. So, yeah. Maybe they should have had it where Bond interrupted what was going to happen, and it didn't. I don't know. But It is a Bond film. It's not to be taken completely seriously. It is escapist adventure and that sort of thing. But yeah, that's kind of bad. So, but anyway, overall, it's just I don't know how long it's been since I've watched it before, but it's still not quite there for what the Bond films are, but it is more there than I remembered it being. So there's a lot of it pretty complete. Jack Lord was the first Felix Leiter. So, but there'll be plenty others as we go. So he went on. He was almost Captain Kirk, but he wanted too much money, so he ended up being McGarrett on Hawaii Five-0, and that pretty much was his career there. Anyway, there we are. Dr. No, the first of the James Bond film series. Thanks for watching and listening. Say, while you're still here, why not like and subscribe and share with your many friends? Yes. Also, check out my mini stores in the link description below. Yes, where you can get t-shirts, hats, mugs, all those goodies with my artwork on them. Oh, yeah. And head over to indieplanet.com and pick up a copy of my comic book, Night Night. Oh, yeah. You can also catch me at my podcast, Mr Nailsin Show, on RadioMisfits.com. And you can also watch my videos on BitChute.com and now on Rumble.com. Oh, my goodness. So many places to watch me and my stuff. Oh, yeah. And if that's not enough for you, well, you can follow me on many social media platforms and say hi to your old pal, Mr. Nailsin.